What can I answer for you?
Okay, so this question is about branding and using your story.
Yep.
And as a Christian, there's lots of reasons why we have our business, and that involves good works and things like that. So in Matthew 5, it says to actually be a light and shine your light and let other people see your good works. But in Matthew 6, it says that you shouldn't shine your charitable deeds before men, or else you have your reward. So I'm just wondering where the balance is as a Christian business with your branding.
Very good. Well, to me it comes down to intent, Katie. Like, you remember Jesus, he taught the Pharisees about this, right? He was like, don't stand on the street corner and beat your chest. I've got an echo in here, Craig. I'm not sure what that is, but, and basically he addressed that issue. He said, it's not about letting the world know you're doing good things or not. Like, if you shine that light, if you keep it under a bushel, you lose, right? Because you're not having any influence, and influence is the name of the game. I think it depends on your intent. If you're going out there and telling the world about your good deeds because you want to look like a good spiritual person, right? Then I think you've completely missed it. If you're just going about building a great business for the sake of the kingdom and giving people an expression of the kingdom and loving on people as they shop with you, then by default, people are going to look upon you and go, wow, you're different. But you're not doing it for the accolade of man, you're doing it for the accolade of God. And I think that's the difference. It was everything Jesus came, and when he pulled the Pharisees apart, it was a heart issue in every case. Because, they had taken God's law and made it manageable, put it inside a little box. And that's what Jesus came to smash. And that's one of them. Like, I've stood up before at events and told people about some things that we have done, right, to help in a really small way to advance the kingdom. And my goal in telling people is only ever testimony and example, not because, and I even say to people in the moment, like, I'm not trying to impress you at all. There's people that do way more than me. But just to give people an example of what I've done. And for me, like, because Scripture says if you do it for the sake of man, you've already had your reward, is what Scripture says. But that's because people do it because they want to look like a good, righteous person. They're trying to do good deeds to earn the favor of God. And that's a disaster, right? That's not giving out of, appreciation of the freedom we have as believers. That's a religious duty to look good in front of your spiritual friends. And I think that's the difference, right? The difference between, showing people the world and needing to tell people the world is just intent. I don't think anyone has caught the full gospel if they have to keep telling people the good deeds they do.
And I guess having that branding influence means that when we're charitable, if it influences our target market or those people, we can keep other things private. Yeah.
For sure. Like, people come to me all the time for things. I remember I had a political party come to me and say, would you help shape the economic policy for us to go to the polls with? For sure. I want that influence. But I don't tell everybody about everything I do, right? It's just about learning, I think we need to be led by the Spirit on this. There'll be times when we need to be overt, times when we need to be covert, and we just learn how to do that as believers. If we believe the false doctrine that we should never, ever promote, you will build a terrible business, right? Because you need to tell the world about what you do and why you're good at it for customers to be able to enjoy it, and then you get to give them a good service. And whether you preach at them or whether you don't preach at them, you're going to treat them better than somebody else. And that gives people a witness, and they'll come to you from time to time and say, what's different about you and your company? And you say, great, sit down, repeat after me, dear Jesus. It's much easier to have influence when you've done a good job, solved their problems, loved on them, treated them like a human, right? Then basically your actions speak for themselves. You don't need to bang your chest about it, which is what the Pharisees did.